Hello, I'm David DeCosmo. Welcome to Preview. This is Electric City Television's weekly public affairs program. And joining us today is Justin Behrens, who's with the Keystone Mission. We've talked with the mission that deals with the problem of homelessness in our area for quite some time now. And Justin, the last time we talked, and the time before that, there was an important project sitting on the table, which now has taken a major step forward in coming to fruition. So without any further discussion, what is in the process?
Well, Dave, first of all, thank you for having me here. I think the most important thing to know is in Wyoming Street, right here in Scranton, we just acquired a building that we're looking at getting. We had to go through the zoning board. And we went through the whole zoning process, and we were approved by the zoning board to build a homeless shelter. But from now on, I'm not going to use the word homeless shelter anymore, because that's not what we're calling this. It's a transformation center. Transformation center. Yes. Right. And I want to try to explain what that means, because I think that we really need to educate the public on what a transformation center is versus a shelter. So our ideal, or our vision, is that an individual would come to us, to Keystone Mission, and you want to provide them the needs that they need right away. And that's usually the clothing, the housing, the food, right?
Immediate needs.
Right. It's the stuff that they need right away. So they come in the first week, that's what they get. And this is what they get in the Transformation Center. And then what will happen is they get a card which will have points on it. And as they give back, as they help out in the mission, as they're doing stuff to go to their doctor's appointments or go to their mental health appointments or their drug addiction programs that they're going to, or they're going to job readiness skills, they'll get points on their cards. And they can take those points and they can start using them within the mission. And the points can go to food, so they can get lunch, dinner, breakfast. It can go to their housing, so they can sleep for the night. But it starts teaching them the concept of budgeting, and starts teaching them the concept of saving those points for things that you need and those things that you might have as luxury items.
And yet they are points that must be earned, so they work toward those points.
Correct. And that's the whole philosophy we're trying to teach. We're trying to instill those philosophies. Because you and I both know that if we want to buy a luxury car, we're going to put money away in the bank so that we can buy that luxury car. Sure. We want to teach those concepts, but at the same time give them skills that they can use out there in the environment and use out there in the everyday world and become successful. So we're going to have job readiness programs in there to help them get trained. And then the last piece that we're looking at is getting them the job that they need and employment so that they can give back to the government and give back to the society and back to the community so that they can become successful themselves.
Well, you've been dealing with the homeless for quite some time. Would you say that the bulk of those who find themselves in that situation want to get out of it?
Majority of them want to not live the way that they're living right now. They want to get out there. They want to have an apartment. They want to have a job. And I talked about this before with you. Think about that homeless individual, right, that is trying to apply for a job. They're not clean because they don't have the facilities to keep themselves clean, you know, to take showers and get nice clothing. And they're trying to get a job in a job interview. And that's difficult. Here at this institution and in this program with this transformation center, they're going to have those resources so that they can get that step forward, so they can build and get themselves better. So the key part to Keystone Mission is we're building relationships. Mm-hmm. Everyone that comes through our building is going to start getting relationships. And Dave, I'm going to give you an example for that. If, let's say, tomorrow you were homeless, who would you call to help you out?
Yeah, well, probably family.
Right. Your family, your friends. If you go to church, your church community. They're the ones that are going to help you get out of that rut.
Right, right.
These individuals that come through our doors have nobody to call. And I think of one individual that comes regularly to us is Randy. And Randy has nobody to use to get help.
So there's no family.
No family.
No church affiliation.
No church
not
affiliation.
Necessarily any friends who are in a position to offer help or advice.
I would call positive friends, right.
All right.
So now we start building those relationships. So within our walls, we have people that are willing to step up and be mentors or be guiding, guide them in the right direction. And we start surrounding them with relationships. So when eventually we get them where they need to go, get the housing that they need, get the jobs that they need, get, working for food and doing all that stuff that they need. If they have a slip up, they're now going to call their friends. and they're going to start using the community to help them get where they need to go. Where you and I is, that's what we do. If we have something going on, we call our community to help us because we built those relationships. So that's what our whole goal is, building those relationships.
Now, is the center viewed as an all-encompassing place where there would be sleeping facilities, eating facilities, classroom facilities perhaps?
All three, yes. But the key part to that too is, as these individuals that are coming through our door are building relationships, Keystone Mission is building relationships. So we want to work with the community. Keystone Mission isn't the mental health provider in the community.
Now, there are other experts that handle that particular type of problem.
And they're the ones we partner with. And they can come into our facility and start building those bonds and those relationships. We're not the experts in medical. We're not the expert in housing. We're not the expert in, budgeting or financing. But we are the experts in building those relationships in the community and bringing them together under one roof so that we can start helping these individuals together as a team, together as a community, and together as a county, nation, and state, all together, working together, all full engines.
Now, those other experts that you talked about, be it mental health, be it physician-type assistance, job assistance, they're already out there. They're available. So I'm gathering that you believe it would be far more productive to bring them to the individual rather than trying to send the individual out to these various locations.
So one of the things we've noticed when we work with the individuals right now is that they're frustrated when they have to go to this agency and then they get the runaround or they get the paperwork they got to deal with and then they got to go to this agency and then this agency. We want to try to minimize all that, if you want to call it red tape, and get them where they can get all the services that they need with the communities helping us out. So the communities are still doing their excellent quality of work that they're doing, but they got that captive audience with us under our roof.
And I assume that red tape can be a real deterrent sometimes. Someone has in mind, I'd like to do this. They begin to take the process. They hit the wall, the red tape wall, and they're discouraged and stop.
And give up. And they don't have the relationships to say, hey, come on, Randy, let's go. Keep going, Randy, you can do it. Keep going. They don't have that relationship. So what do they result? They go back to the bridge, or they go back to living in abandoned houses, or they go back to the system that they know best, and that's living under, in the poor conditions. We're trying to break that cycle. And by breaking that cycle, you build the relationships with the community and you build relationships with the individuals that come through our doors.
The concept of the center seems so logical, but nothing like that operates on its own. It's going to be expensive to some degree. How is that going to be handled?
So, like we normally do, we ask for donations for our mission to keep it going. We also are looking to partner. And we talked earlier about this. We started building partnerships with the community, and that's business sector, right? So we talk to the businesses and we say, okay, you're having a hard time getting these jobs filled, right? You need widget A and widget B combined in a factory setting, and you don't have the people that want to fill those jobs. You're not getting that product out that you need because you don't have the staff to do that. We can help provide that through job readiness programs, training them how to do that in our facility. And then we'll connect them with you as an employer and get them employed in your situation. Those businesses start looking at like, wow, this is something that we need. This is something we need to grow with and something we want to help. And they help this mission drive, along with the church community that's in there because we are a faith-based organization, and along with the donors that just have a calling, that's their passion. The
logic of designing it toward local needs is so obvious because you don't necessarily want to train someone in a facility here how to fix jet engines when we have no factory around here to build jet engines.
Yep.
But you may have warehousing, and warehousing may take some simpler yet more physical skills that you may be able to work a positive change for some of the individuals you deal with.
And that's exactly it. So they might do that warehouse or the factory work, and they might not ever use the computer before in their life and not know how to use a computer. Well, let us teach them how to use a computer. Let us get them those skills so when they walk into your business, they're already trained and ready to go. They already know how to do that job. And you save so much money on the business end of how to train them. At the same time, I read the comments about, they're just the drug dealers. They're the, the criminals. They're the mischief, of society. They're the ones that cause the problems. They're not the individuals. They just had it raw. You and I could be homeless the next day.
You just had a piece in one of our local publications recently that dealt with, I think, who are the homeless, basically. Would you recount a bit of that?
So we're looking at saying, who is this homeless population, right? Who are the ones that we're reaching? And in that article, I talked about the reasons why people are homeless. And I think you got to find out the reasons why before you can fix the problem. So the number one is the apartments' rents are going so high that these individuals can't afford their rents. So, when you're paying in the average range between, $800 and $1,000 a month for rent, and you're only making $771 in Social Security income, the numbers don't match. So they'd rather be homeless because they can't afford it. The second reason is abuse. So a lot of, especially in the women, when they're abused by their spouse or their husband or whoever, or their boyfriend, they'd rather be homeless than live in that abusive environment. So there's that population. And then, of course, there's the population of mental health and the population of drug addiction that you hear, and incarceration. So with those 5 major problems that are going on, we need to start trying to figure out how do we fix that. So when I talked in that article, I said, okay, and I explained the whole process I explained previously about the mission and how we're having the point system and coming in and starting developing those transforming their lives. But the key part, and I sound like beating a dead horse here, is that it's all about relationships. When you build relationships, homelessness will stop. I look back prior to Franklin D. Roosevelt, prior to when the New Deal came out. I look at that the community was the one that was taking care of this. The community, the churches were sitting there. They were saying, okay, Johnny was having a problem. Yeah. They were the ones that were, living in poverty. They were the ones that had a mental health illness. They were the ones on drug addiction. They were the ones that were, spousal abuse. They were the ones that couldn't afford housing. The community came out and said, we're going to help you. There was a relationship there. I feel that Keystone Mission's direction is building those relationships back. Let's get back to our roots. Let's get back to the foundation of where we are as a community. Let's start here in Scranton. Let's make sure Lackawanna can do it. Then let's get the state to do it, and let's get the nation to do it. Let's Scranton to be the forefront and be the leaders in taking care of homelessness so the nation can say, wow, Scranton can do it, we could do it too.
Well, people that, and obviously it's not to the same state here as it is in some of the major cities, but people complain about a homeless person lying in the entrance to a doorway. It doesn't necessarily take handing him a dollar bill to get him out of that situation. That may be counterproductive in some cases.
Correct. And so I tell my staff, and I continually say this every staff meeting, is that nobody's coming through our doors to get clothes. Nobody's coming through our doors to get a bag of food, for eating. Nobody's coming through our doors to learn about some kind of service that they can help better themselves. They come through our doors because there's something that happened in their life that caused them to be that way. And our job is to find out what that problem is and build relationships to help them solve that problem. Because I never seen you through my door, Dave. I never seen you come get clothes. I've never seen you get food. Therefore, you're not having a problem that some of these individuals have. And we need to start addressing those problems. So that person that's sitting outside in that business that's looking for money, there is a problem that they've had and they're facing. We need to figure out what that problem is and how do we fix it.
And as you've talked with some of the other service providers, do they seem willing to come into this new facility when this is up and running and set up programs that can address individual needs? Some needs can be addressed in a group type setting, in almost a classroom type setting. Yep. But there's an awful lot that have to be done on an individual basis.
So we offer that too, the individual basis with those agencies also. But to answer your question, nothing's working right now. We still have the homeless out there.
Yeah.
We're still doing the same thing that we're doing now. Keystone Mission is bringing a new way of doing this, and we're asking the community to come on board with us and work with us. And the community, the agencies that we've reached out to, they're more than happy to help us with it. They're already coming into our facility. They're already teaching skills within our built walls. This is without our building even built yet. Yeah. We have them coming into the Olive Street building, and also our building in Wilkes-Barre, also right there in Sherman Hills. We have individuals and agencies that are coming in, teaching skills, already doing it, and we're already seeing improvements. We're already seeing people moving in a positive direction and building relationships.
And if that were done in a new modern type space, that would, I think, add to the chance of success for all of those efforts. So I remember your predecessor was first to tell us here on ECTV that a facility was needed, that a search was on. Now you've taken that next major step, so hopefully this will become operational and you will have the success that you're looking for. By the same token, those immediate needs don't disappear. And in fact, we talked about how they don't change in the summertime. They're a little bit more immediate in the wintertime when you're facing cold weather and snow weather and wet weather. To that end, you recently partnered with the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Penguins hockey team. Tell us about that effort.
So again, relationships, and I'm still saying the same word. We like to build the relationships, and we did it with the Wilkes-Barre Penguins. And so we sat down with them and we said, listen, here's our needs. This is what we're looking for. And they said, well, here's what we're looking for. And we said, well, this is a great relationship to be built. So just this past weekend, we had a Penguins game that went on, and we had a not tractor trailer, but a U-Haul out there. And we collected clothing, we collected socks, hats, scarves, coats, shirts, pants, whatever people wanted to donate to help supply those needs that we still need. Every single day we need those needs. So it's not like we're saying, hey, don't give us donations. There's not a single day, 365 days of the year, that we need those donations. So if you want to donate, continue to come out and help us with that. But Wilkes-Barre Penguins, they helped us on board with that. At the same time, we also advocated about Keystone Mission and what our mission is all about. And while we were there, majority of the people stopped by our little table that we had set up, and they asked, what are you guys, tell me a little bit more about who you are. And we told them, and now they want to volunteer and come back and give back, because it's coming back to that community setting. It's coming back to work as a community to accomplish a mission.
Well, can individuals volunteer and help? I mean, I can see where a social service worker who's had training would be an appropriate volunteer, or a counselor of some sort, but you say individuals want to help out. I mean, what can an individual do to help change that around so that your homeless population declines in numbers? Well,
I'll give you a real life scenario. We had an individual who's an attorney. He came to us, he said, I want to volunteer. We said, okay, what do you want to do? He says, well, I know law. And I said, okay, well, let's see what we can do. He comes to us once a week to our mission. He sits down with individuals that want to sit there, and he helps guide them with paperwork, like filling out applications, that type of thing. He lets them, hey, you got to read the fine lines, make sure you know what you're reading. He's really educating them on the whole process. This is an individual that is a lawyer, but wants to give back and help out, and this is what he's doing. We can tailor to everything. We have a nurse that wants to come and volunteer and start teaching about proper hygiene and how to take care of yourself. And, hey, you might not have these facilities, but you still can take care of yourself hygiene-wise, brushing your teeth, combing your hair, that type of thing, to make sure that you're staying okay. So anyone can volunteer. So if an individual's asking, hey, Keystone Mission, how can I get involved? You can volunteer your time. That's either helping with the message and a meal. That's giving out that food. That's coming into our building and helping us out with distribution.
And let us point out here, because I know that our church at least was involved, that there are churches that actually provide certain meals.
Well, I'm going to give you a shocker here too. Guess who's today? We have a group coming in to do message and a meal, and it's the Scranton Police Force.
Wow.
With the police chief himself is going to be there. So it's showing to you that we are faith-based. That is 100% correct. We will not take that away from our building. But we're working in the community. We're starting to build those community bonds back together again to help accomplish this. So we have the Scranton coming to help out. We had Wilkes University hockey team volunteer to do message and a meal. But if they want to volunteer also by giving clothing, giving food. Today, or not today, but a couple days ago, I went through my closet and cleaned out my closet, and I said, oh, you know what? We never wear these anymore. Let's give it to someone who can use this, someone who can really use it. So we donated clothing. People do that all the time. Rather than throwing it away, come on, bring it out and donate it to us. We'll be more than happy to take it.
Now, on our last meeting here on ECTV, we also took a couple of moments, and I think this is important. And you mentioned it in one of your comments, that this is not solely a problem with male individuals, that there are females that are involved, and that occasionally you have a situation with children that are involved too. Those are very unique and hard problems to handle.
So homelessness doesn't discriminate. Anyone can become homeless. So we're looking at anyone that's elderly all the way to the, someone that's very young. We're looking at male and female. We're looking at any religion. It doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate. We have, yes, true, it's a large population of them are male, but we have a very large population of female that are coming right on their tails of the male gender that are homeless. And it's very tough being a female being homeless, because now you have to face not only all of the hygiene issues that you got to deal with, but also you got to face, there's predators out there, people taking advantage of you. So they live in kind of cliques, protective factors. So you might have a female that might have a group that they hang out with to protect themselves. So now we go back to that person that's outside that restaurant or outside that business, and there's a group outside there. They're not out there to try to cause harm or try to cause mischief in the area. They're protecting themselves. They're staying with themselves as a family, as as relationships. So we have that. We also have females that are taking care of children that are homeless. And then on top of that, which is neglected even more than that, and it's a very small minority, but they're still out there, are males that are taking care of, fathers that are taking care of their children. And they're homeless. So if you're a female and you have children and you're homeless, there's the McCulley House. You can go there, get the help that you need. If you're male and you're homeless, you can go to one of the shelters to get help that you need, or Transformation Center, which we're building. If you're female, there's the shelter that you can go to. Ruth's Place in Wilkes-Barre is one of them, or the Transformation Center that we're going to be building they can come to. But if you're male and you have, children with you, you have nowhere really to go. There's no place for them.
No place to turn. No.
So what do? They have two choices. Either A, they live out in the streets with their children, or B, the male goes into a homeless shelter for the male, and the children then are taken for, with children and youth and taken for custody that way. So now you're breaking up the bond of the family, and now you cause a bigger problem in that situation. So we need to start looking at these different categories. I'm not saying let's build buildings for everybody, and make sure we have it, but we need to really address these issues that are out there.
You have to have a program for all the needs anyway, even if it's 1 out of 100.
Correct.
You've got to deal with that individual and that individual situation. How many people do you envision the new facility handling?
We're looking at 50.
50.
And that'll be male, female, and we're tossing up the idea of having the male with children.
Now that would make a dent in the homeless problem, but it would not solve it, but at least a major attempt to solve it.
Yes and no. It will put a dent, a very big dent in that whole population. And what we're looking at is actually these individuals are going to start moving. They're not living in our shelter forever.
Right.
They're going to come there.
And that's important. You're not. This isn't designed as home.
No. This is a transformation center. Transform them from being homeless to living on their own, paying taxes, right, because they're having jobs, living in an apartment, buying their own food, and eventually maybe getting off Social Security income because they can provide for themselves now. And then the flip side of that is when they leave, we just take the next one and move them in, right? Now, Dave, I want to make sure that people understand also, there are people out there that the transformation centers, homeless shelters, they just don't want to be in there. They just don't want to go there. That's not their place for them. They'd rather live on the streets. It's a small minority,
but it's there.
But it's there.
No.
And I think that's important to understand also. We're not going to transform everybody. We're not going to touch everybody because there's some people that just don't want to do it. And that's okay, but we still need to provide them the basic needs for them to get by.
So even if they're not interested in taking part in this chance to revive their lives, they're not going to be forgotten.
That is correct. And that's very important to understand. We understand they don't want to move in that process. But we also understand we can't just leave them on the streets to
Right,
die.
sure.
That's not right. So we're going to look out for them.
How can anyone that wants to help out, be it as a donator of finances, of clothing, of food, of their time to help you, how can they get a hold of you and find out what's needed and how they fit?
Okay. So the best way I can tell you is for those 4 things, if you hit all 4 of them, food, clothing, volunteer your time, or monetary, right? And I'm going to add a 5th one, or pray for us. I think that's important also. What I'm going to say is that they can either go to our website, which is www.keystonemission.org, and everything is on there with our contact numbers, our email addresses, and our addresses that we have, and talks about how you can donate and tells you about the mission itself also. Or they can come down to our Olive Street building, or they can come to our Sherman Hills building in Luzerne. They can donate the clothing there. Just stop over the building, ring the doorbell, and we'll come out there and take the clothing or food. If they want to write a check, they can write the check there or donate there too also. Or they want to learn about the mission. This is what's the most important part, that we can let them come on in and we'll give them a tour of the building, tell them about who we are physically there, and say, is this your calling? Is this something you want to do? I think it's important, and I'll kind of wrap up with this whole idea of what I'm trying to talk about, is that we're trying to mimic exactly what Sherman, if you talk about when Jesus came out there, he started talking to everybody and saying, listen, you know, he fed everybody with bread and fish. You know, he took the fish and bread and he made multiple and fed everybody. I think that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to get everybody we can do to get them what they need. You know, those necessities, those immediate needs, get them fixed. Then I remember when Jesus went across, right? And they followed him and they all said to him, you know, give me more fish, give me more bread. And he's like, whoa, what are you doing? He's like, go back to work. You know, you got to work if you want to be fed. That's exactly what we're doing. We're going to bring them in. We're going to get them what they need to sustain themselves and get better. And then we're going to tell them, now you got to get back to work, you know. And work doesn't mean just a job. Work means working on trying to better themselves.
And responsibility.
Becoming those life skills. And that's what we're trying to instill. And once we build that with my favorite word, relationships, they're going to be moving forward in the right direction.
Well, I think this facility will go a long way toward helping a lot of people, and I hope that it's operational sooner than later. And Justin Behrens, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. We'll certainly have you back again for follow-ups.
Thank you.
I'm David DeCosmo. Glad you could join us today on Preview, and until we see you next time, here's hoping all your news is good.